team. You can stand up and away. There you are. We've worked together closely on women training. Basically, it's changing the world through art and changing people's minds on disability. There's a really exciting panel to be a part of today. Because everybody here, including the little school who work with the council, so it's really nice to meet everybody here who are accomplished in their field and share their experiences, especially a woman. We are all women here, yeah. Women with a disability and how it's portrayed in the art world and how we use it to inform our work. Before we introduce everybody, I'd like them to talk about who they are and where you come from, what brings you here today. And before we do that, I'd like to introduce our two very amazing superheroes of organic episode. Daniel Haley, over there, and over here we have Anna Paul. I love them. Yeah, I'm going to sound like. So let's start with you, Liz.
Okay, I'm Liz Wright. I'm a Metro Access Officer at Council, which means my role is all about disability. I sit within the diversity team. I am a woman with a disability. I'm vision impaired and very cranky a lot of the time. That's what I say to my daughter. I can't help it. But anyway, that's what I do. So I work internally on council within a legislative context to try and make things more accessible and inclusive in Maribyrnong. So I work with my colleagues for change, and that can be really difficult, and also the general public, which can also be really difficult. My other hat that I do is that I have a weekly radio show on 3CR, which is called Are You Looking At Me?, which is an eyesight pun. But I have conversations with people every week around disability. And the reason I started that show 5 years ago is that it was just getting me absolute shits watching mainstream TV, and the only stories about disability were either triumph or tragedy. Yeah. And then if you look at the diversity up here and all the people you know with disabilities, you know that everybody has a life. People are pairing up, having babies, travelling overseas, they work, they get sick, some of them are not nice, you know, they're just people. So I chat to someone around something that is really good to try and keep a constant in media around the disability conversation. So that's me.
Thank you. So, Vildana. So I'm an aerial artist. I do work on tissue and the rope. And I've been lucky enough that I'm a scholarship recipient here in 2017 from the Circus. I think it's called Emerging Artist, so I'm not sure. I don't know the full name. Also, I work in Vision Australia. I am vision impaired too, and I work in a community engagement, area of community engagement. And also I'm very active and do some casual work in an organisation called Women with Disabilities Victoria. I guess I'm passionate about inclusion from every angle, and I believe in co-design of everything, of all the processes and all the, products that this society is creating. So I believe that we should definitely stand amongst those decision makers rather than on the other side. Recipients. So yeah, I try to challenge and shift quite a lot of perceptions, I guess, within my daily work. It's not always easy.
My name is Emma J Hawkins. I'm obviously a performer. I've been a performer professionally for about 20 years now, so that's saying my age a little bit. I've worked in lots of different forms, so I work in circus as well as dance and plays, kids theatre, you name it, I've probably done it. Burlesque, I have taken my clothes off on stage too. I've had the opportunity to work in mainstream companies as well, so I worked with Circus Oz for a year. I was even in a musical for a year, so I feel like part of being a disability advocate for artists, for myself, is being the proof of the pudding, if you know what I mean. So getting my work out there in whatever way I possibly can. I obviously create a lot of my own work too. So like when I get opportunities like this to into a creative development and create work, which I think is a theatrical look on my life and dealing with things and being different and diversity. So, I just got a gig at the Malthouse Dianne, which is really exciting. So things are happening in the mainstream world, which is really exciting. So I think we just have to keep the push for artists with a disability getting out there. So I just think there's exciting things to come. So watch this page, yeah. And thanks so much for coming and watching me rolling around in a big black ball. Inherently fun.
That's the baby bit.
My name is Melinda Smith and I live with cerebral palsy, which has necessitated the use of powered wheelchairs and speech-generating devices. My dance career began in 2006 when I performed with a small theatre group called Unusability. In 2010 I helped to establish a small dance troupe of wheelchair users, known as Wheel Women, who partnered with Fusion Theatre to develop the stage production Perfectly Imperfect. Here I met Dianne Reid, who was the choreographer for the show, and we began to develop my dance practice. This was the first time I had experienced dancing out of my wheelchair. In 2011 and 2012, Dianne was my mentor for the Cultivate Arts grant I had received from Arts Access Australia. This project involved private workshop sessions with other dance artists including Janice Florence, Joey Lehrer and Anne O'Keefe, and also began the development of a joint improvisation practice with Dianne, which was now continued for some 7 years. We have made short dance films together and for live performance works, most recently incorporating harness work with the support of the Women's Circus and under the guidance of Frank Establer.
Well, I'm Dianne Reid. I'm getting Mel to do all the talking for me, so I'm really saying. But I've been working in dance as a performer and a screen dance maker, so I film and edit work as well, and an educator, so I've taught a lot at Deakin. And I met Mel several years ago, and we just sort of hit it off as friends, so we're friends as well. And it's been a really great way to investigate yourself as a human and what a dance career can become as you become a mature body. So it's a nice learning process about my own dance as well as about how we can bring all of the gear of videography and disability into the creative mix.
I just want to remind you all that this is a very relaxed space, so if you have any to go to the toilet or grab a cup of tea or water, please go up and do that. So I'd like to kick off with Mel and Dianne here. So Now, you've been involved in dance for a really long time now, haven't you? Yeah. So what brought you to it? How did you discover dance?
I dance to connect with myself and to be who I am in the world around me. My CP, cerebral palsy, means that I am not in control of my muscles and I move my body in different ways. Dancing to me is about developing my practice with every aspect of my body, and that includes my cerebral palsy, and I am taking a pride and responsibility for that. Mostly I am dancing out of my wheelchair. But I see my wheelchair and my communication devices' bodies, and I have relationships with them in dance and in life. I love to listen to dance and watch dance and learn from other bodies, and that is equally important to me. And my relationship to time, being slow and allowing myself the time I need, is the most important thing in my dance. It does not mean I dance slowly all the time, but it is more about knowing my focus and giving myself the still moment for the next image, for the next move in my journey. I don't do well under pressure if my muscles don't have time to listen, and as a result, nothing happens in my moves. I just freeze inside and things blur, and I can't think or articulate. So my relationship to time continues to be a realization that the more time I give, the more I can achieve and perform.
That's beautiful. Time is very important. I think that we all give to ourselves as artists. We're going to learn more, we're going to get there more. The more pressure we're going to have ourselves to receive that. We cut off all the opportunities that could potentially be there. Dianne, to focus to you, what your primary work is working with screen and video, making videos, and could you tell us a little bit more about the background where?
Well, I actually probably work equally in a live context and a screen context. I was actually I started a solo project that I wanted to bring together my performing life and my screen work and find ways to get close to audience, to work in the interesting architectures that you can work with in film, and to get close to audience, to try and bring sensation back into how people view, to get that sort of intimacy, because we get pushed away from each other, or you make screen dance, you put it out and someone watches it on us, in their bedroom. There's no contact anymore. So I made a solo. I was in a underground tunnel in Adelaide. Had some moments with projection, interacting with my body, like little characters of me. So it was really sort of about looking at all the stuff that you hold in your body and getting in touch with the physical. And I took it to Edinburgh, and I thought, this is sort of worth unpacking a bit more. You know, I wanted to have time to spend to see where I could really go with it. I came back and did a PhD at Deakin, which meant that I could have space to just focus on my artwork and the support of the technical structures there. And I've been working more and more with Mel, and I did a solo in a train carriage up at Ceres. So people sort of moved in around me and developed more of the interactive video work. And then I thought, oh, well, what do I do as the next stage of it? And we did a duet work together. So we just did it in the studio and started bringing in all the architecture of wheelchairs and devices, and looking at how they become characters, what happens in my movement, working in relationship to Mel. How could we play with all of these sort of new tools of speed and virtuosity? Then we kept developing that, and then I did a two-hander, so it started as a solo in the train with me during the day, and then a couple of days later I was in the hallway in the Abbotsford Convent, and they'd arrive and find Mel there, so it became a duet. And then we sent Scott to develop it further, and we took it to Tasmania to Salamanca Moves, and 10 days in the island. So it's great that it's had a life, and it's an improvised work. I mean, we have a structure around the video and the soundtrack that is like a score that we know is constant, but you have to be totally available to being in the moment, because you don't know, you can't force a lift, or you can't know what's going to happen. So that gives you this great freedom to be available to real stuff. And I think when we work close with audience too, sometimes they might be, underneath us, or, we might lean against them. It brings a different sort of attention to their own body as viewers.
So how obviously working with facilitator in quite a number of ways. Can you tell us about some way that you have grown in the experience of working together with Mel? Because surely, you're an improviser.
Yes.
Yeah, in both ways. Flexible and improvisation. And to be a good improviser, you have to be able to work with time and space and on the feet the whole time. So I'm curious to know how your relationship and your working together with Mel has improved the practice further.
Well, I think if you work with anyone for a long period of time, you set up a very personal relationship. You get to understand the other person's aesthetic and get a sense of time, how far you can go with each other, that trust. But I think, I'm 55, so I'm not supposed to be performing as a contemporary dancer or teaching advanced technique, so that's my disability.
That's good.
It means that I've got a lot of information in my body, but I also really work diligently on the yoga practice so that I can maintain strength to protect myself. It comes about how do you just sustain your own body and how you can be supportive to another body that sometimes might go somewhere that we don't expect. Do you want to add anything to that?
Exploring my body has become a real interest to me. I strive on the idea of finding things I can do. It excites me to know my body has done it in its own time, and I love that. I grew up to hear what I can't do by teachers, professionals and medical workers. When I moved from floor to wall to standing in mid-floor. I comprehended each stage, each moment in its arrival. The moment I have come somewhere I have not been to before, or not for a long time, is not only a personal achievement, but it is a moment when my body has communicated in dance.
So when we would practice for 3 hours, and we don't go in with any scores, we'll often set up a playlist of music because we really respond to music as a way to fuel our imagination and to be able to shift through different dynamic terrain. And then we would start warming up separately, and then we gradually move together. So we move between solos and duets, working together, watching each other. It's great. You don't have to achieve anything. You have to invest absolutely in the moment. And I feel like my attention when I'm working with Mel becomes more respectful of my own body, and it sort of brings the metaphor of working with camera into how I'm working with my body. So I'm not working in large shape that is separated from me, but I'm able to zoom in to how can I support her just through that little bit of my knee down to the floor. The world becomes larger and richer because your attention has to open to more detail.
You build up a lot of awareness and sensitivity because you're having to be sensitive to the state of each other. And I find if I talk about my perspective as a performer, not here, I find that my sensitivity on my body is building relationships with other people. That's built, and it's why I love improvising, because you have to think in the minute, you respond to the moment, that thinking ahead, really. Producer and planning. And I feel that I work with Richard because of that. So I'd like to bring to Vildana, you say you have a physical impairment, but yes, you can have a rope in a circus, and you just make some tricks there here. So could you tell us a little bit more about that?
I'll just start back and say that, I have vision impairment, and it's a deteriorating eye condition that I've been diagnosed, I think a few years ago, maybe even more, 5 years ago. It's a really rare condition that leads you from 20/20 vision to highly likely you'll lose all of it. I just needed to, because when I lost or started losing my vision, all I've had is these, stereotypes of people who are blind or have low vision. And I had a real identity crisis because I had to say goodbye to who I was before, or I felt like I needed to, because society was obviously treating me differently, or viewing my capabilities and abilities differently. But then all I've had to kind of construct myself into a person was the stereotypes of a person that actually is unable or is lacking in something, or should be kind of content with or grateful for what's been given to you. And I just felt that that's not right. So few people kind of played the key role in that. I met someone who was working in Circus, and they really said, well, I really can't see the reason why can't you do it. And it really intrigued me because I always loved dance and drama and theatre, but doing that and having this like a high risk, so it says a label on your forehead, just stay put and liability insurance and all of that. So and then I approached a place where I was kind of, it's one of these circus places in Melbourne, and that was one of the questions that was asked. The public liability of someone who's vision impaired, how's it going to work in that space? And would have to be one-on-one training, which costs a lot of money. So I got disheartened a bit, but then I had a lovely teacher and she taught me some first climbs, and yeah, I realised that I actually can do it. And then I met Tan. And sitting, I think, Tan, you there?
She's just gone out.
In this moment, yeah. She is a person that actually has enabled that for me. She has created that space where I feel that I can 100% trust myself and trust her. With vision impairment, like, people obviously ask me often, like, aren't you scared because you can't see? I have partial sight, so it's only 10% left for me. And I said, I'm more scared at Flinders Street Station, where there's people running everywhere, than up in the air, where I'm in full control of my space and my body, and I have a reference point, which is a silk or a rope. So I feel enormously, I feel me. It's something that helped me to find my voice and my strength back again. And I realised that I didn't have to change who I was before. I didn't have to say to Vildana goodbye. I can still be me. And it was so, yeah, I can't tell you the impact it had on me. It's beautiful. So yeah. So it took one person, two people actually, to change the game for me, because everywhere you go around, it's like, oh, I'm not sure, that sounds a bit dangerous, or... But actually I'm doing drops and I'm fine.
I can see, and I get up there and I think, oh, that's just terrifying.
It helps that I don't have good depth perception.
I have a question though around your identity. Because one, you've been labelled that, oh, you can't see this, or you can't do this or that.
Yeah.
The other, that you're a woman.
Yeah.
Do you find that coming into this space, which is a woman's only training space, did that give you an additional sense of security and safety? Did you feel that? Yeah. Because it's a woman's space. So, if you went into a circus training space, just hypothetically, well, not hypothetically, but and have a man, or would you feel different about training in that space?
Just going back to the identity of your question, so I was really struggling, because when you think of people with disabilities, usually it's this like genderless, asexual human beings. And when you look at, transgender community is fighting so hard to have unisex toilets, but people with disability, look at us, we have them already, and not by choice. It's just, it stems from that bias and perception that you have no sexual desires, you have no identity as a woman, you're just a person that needs help, and you should be grateful for it. I struggled with that a lot, because I needed to kind of step away from that thinking, because I didn't feel right, and as well, you're perceived as vulnerable, as weak,
less than.
Yeah, and I guess in a male-dominated society, I can't think of them as being an expert on my body, or an expert on what I can or can't do. And also, it's just a place, because I feel that in kind of female environment, I feel really safe and not perceived as vulnerable or weak, and I can be taken advantage of. Which, for example, I can tell you with some taxi drivers has happened. They've had these ideas that they can, in the night time, take a shortcut and you have no idea where you are and you can't see, and just because you can't see, they know they can make that decision for you. So I just felt like, this is a place of understanding and belonging, and I've been appreciated for who I am as a person with all my identities, not for a single identity, which is disability.
So you feel more empowered to create the work that you do? Do you feel that affects the work that you do on the road?
Yes.
There's a sense of confidence comes out, that you're going to create the things that you do.
Exactly. It's just because while standing there, it's allowing me to shift those perceptions while being in the air of what woman with disability is able or can or can't do. But at the same time, this kind of goes back to another thing. Last year, I co-facilitated a talk with Jude, who's sitting there at Deakin University, to first-year students of Masters of Social Work. And it was an interesting talk, the way we constructed it. We presented Sue Austin, a picture of her, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard of her, is a woman in a wheelchair, but she's a scuba diver. And it's a beautiful, beautiful picture of her in a wheelchair under the water and all these corals, and she's in a dress and sunglasses and a breathing apparatus. And we show that to a group of 100 students, and everyone, this is like students of social work, commented how, she's drowning, it's a homicide. It's terrible what's happening to this person, needs to be saved. It was really interesting. Some of the responses, then we had conversations around the risk and liability and training and cost of the equipment to someone scuba diving in a wheelchair. It was a really interesting conversation. And then they went for about half an hour, and then after that, with no explanation, we just showed them a next picture, which was a person in the air, in a silk, in an air tissue, up in the air, and they couldn't see her face because it was a bit distant. So, and people commented how she has everything under control. She's super strong. She knows what she's doing. Very confident. One person said, "This woman in the air, she looks like she has everything in her life." And then I said, "Okay, thank you everyone. I'm just telling you that is actually me." And everyone applauded, where they think that I was probably fishing for some compliments. But then, and I said, "But there's one bit to me, and this is the fact that I'm legally blind and I have really little my vision left." And then, the silence, people just not sure. And I said, "Okay, so what do you think about the risk and the cost and liability and everything, what they've kind of commented for Sue?" And I had such interesting responses, but last year one woman stood up and she said that she's angry with me because I'm not revealing my identity, that I'm disabled. And I should be kind of leading by example of revealing my disability. And I said, "Okay, so would it help if I had in the air dark sunglasses and a white paint?" And she said yes.
So it's the question to say about perception of disability and how they see the disability first, or they want to see the disability first, or they are.
She said yes, and it was really interesting. But then we went on, and with Reid, we created some work where I was really up in the air with sunglasses and white paint. There's some really cool photos of that. So I don't have to
You should absolutely have a performing after. You have to run that before without the glasses and the paint, and then reveal this one and see what the perceptions are.
Yes.
And I was just talking about perceptions and art. Often we go out into the world with a perceive that people they see, or literally, not always see, but they have an idea or a stereotype of what they see, and they put that before the art. Now, in terms of being an artist with a disability, Emma, this is over to you. How would you say that the public perception of you informs your art?
Public perception of informs my art. I guess, well, when I started off my career, which was a very long time ago now, I got offered all the stereotypical roles, like, leprechauns and gnomes and all kinds of crazy shit like that.
Oh, what?
And all the things that obviously I wasn't any of those things. So I think I learned early on that I would have to put myself out there the way I wanted to be perceived. So I had to be quite ballsy as a performer and just go, no, I don't want to be those things. I'm going to choose to be these other things. And I think it was about finding my cheerleaders. So I think it's very important in life and as a performer to find your cheerleaders. So those are the people that will support you when they do think outside of this work. So just because I was an artist with a disability didn't mean I couldn't be in the circus, you know, I couldn't be in a musical, I couldn't create my own work. So it made me get really, I had to be a feisty, ballsy person right from the start, because I couldn't hide my disability. There was no way that I could hide it. Unless I walked in with stilts, you know, and tried to pretend to be a tall person, which would just be ridiculous.
You just try and make yourself taller. You've got some stilts.
I do still work. And in my work, I like to play with all that stuff, kind of do a little bit of tongue-in-cheek about, haha, I'm going to actually be what you want me to. But then I usually turn it around. So, yeah, it's an interesting road.
What about also being sort of status of woman?
Yes. In the world?
In the world, okay, let's define the art form.
Now I actually am a trained accountant. The funny thing is, people accept me more on rolling around on a big black ball than accept me as an accountant. And I just find that mystifying because I'm smart and I can do the job.
You're an accountant?
I'm an accountant.
Oh, bloody hell.
It's no money in the ass.
Why are you an accountant? Or woman first?
I don't know. I'm all of the things. Sometimes I'm one thing more than the other. I don't know. It all informs each other these days. But being a short-statured woman, you're meant to be, I don't know, they just don't take me seriously. I felt a little bit like a novelty item my whole entire life, so I have to fight against that a lot, whether it's in performing worlds or accounting or in meetings or out in the world. Yeah, there's a lot of dickheads out there that just want to tell me to go, you know. But, that's, yeah, you deal with it and you get on with life. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, in terms of for example, your piece that you just made, that you just seen, that had a lot of reference to your sort of statusness.
Yes.
And would you ever make a piece that's not about your sort of status?
Oh, I'd like to do that too. Like I've done straight play, like I've done The Maids, which is a classic piece of theatre about two sisters that murder their mistress. So I love doing that kind of thing. But the thing is that I don't get offered things like that very often. So I create the work which I think will say something interesting to people. Yeah. So, but I'd love to play lots of things like lawyers or accountants. I could play an accountant now. I actually know how to do that. But it has been very frustrating over the years in my career that I can't do those things. It hasn't up till now been an option for me to play normal people on stage or in film and TV. I always have to play someone different or inspiring or provocative or something different. Yeah. So I'd like to play a soccer mum or something, That'd be good. Yeah, the four-wheel drive. Although I hate four-wheel drives and I couldn't get into one.
I thought you had four-wheel. You don't have four-wheel. No, it looks like four-wheel.
It's just got a big interior, so I can carry my big black ball around in it.
Probably feels a bit like a four-wheel too.
It does. Yeah.
Cool.
It's perception, yeah.
Okay, great, later. We'll come back to, I just want to say hi to Liz, yeah. So we've got a number of different hats.
Yeah.
You work in Maribyrnong Council, activating art in the community.
Yep.
And you run your radio show.
Yeah. My role in council isn't just about arts.
No,
it's
okay.
any subject,
But what is it? Tell me.
So it's probably ending really soon. It's been around, the positions have been around, it's called the Building Inclusive Communities Program. And there's one of us in every local government throughout Victoria. It's only a Victoria-based program. Our role was to broker relationships with the community and government around making things more inclusive. and it's been highly successful. There's been great initiatives that have come out of it. With the rollout of the National Disability Insurance Scheme, which is going to be federally funded, there is now a lot of talk about our positions being non-funded, taken out of government completely, so it'll just be a service system working with people. So the roles that we've had, which have created fantastic programs and supported stuff that's gone national and international as far as ideas have gone, because we're a very strong network, and financially and partnership and relationship-wise, we've been able to do a lot of great work. Will soon be gone. I don't want to be a case manager. That will be offered to me to be a case manager. I'm going to continue this work because I love it, but I don't know how that's going to look. So I'm not saying that's not a flaw of the NDIS. It's a flaw of people thinking that people with disabilities don't value the arts, don't value social connection, don't value living independently in their community, and haven't seen that side. And particularly the big part that arts and performing arts play for people is huge. Like, it's amazing. And I think people are going to find it hard to participate like everybody else.
Do you work a lot with marginalised communities?
Big pardon?
Marginalised
yes, I
communities
do.
in minority.
Yes,
so you would think, you would have known the effect of work on the community.
Well, for example, most of us in this role, we work really strong on partnerships. So, for example, I work with Arts Access very actively, and I got a project up called Bandmates Victoria, which is about people with disabilities.
We have flyers.
So people with disability and or mental health issues being paired with a volunteer to go out to see live music of their own choice. So initially, of course, we had, looked into other programs and stuff, and then we thought, no, Victoria is very unique. Melbourne has an amazing scene. Let's make our own program and tailor it for here. So the partnership side of it is there's 6 local governments partnering in it. Vic Health have funded it. Arts Access are a key partner, and Music Victoria is as well. So what we're doing is industry development. We're working with managers and owners of venues to talk about safety, to bring their disability awareness up, so that, for me, often if I go to a venue and I go on my own to meet someone there and I can't read the sign or the chalkboard, and I say to a bouncer or security guy at the door, is this blah blah and is blah blah playing, and they just point at the sign. So I say it again, I don't see very well, is this blah blah, and I point again. I'm like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. So we're going to work on that side of stuff, so that like anybody else, I can go along and I can have free and open and independent, meet my mates there. I don't have to organise a lift, or, I might be in between 3 things that day. So we'll work with staff and management on the industry development side, we'll work with the volunteers on the other side. And then, of course, getting back to the question of risk, when that whole risk idea came up, what if something happens? Who's going to be responsible? You're going to have a 24-hour support worker on. We said, no, there's dignity in risk. And people can go out and they can make mistakes and they can get home later than they said, or they can not take enough money. I'm not babysitting people, and no one should. We'll work on educating, we'll work on being prepared, we'll work on the companion card being accepted in all venues. So that kind of systemic stuff is what really interests me, because there's power in numbers and there's power in money, and you just need a few people to get on board and the word spreads. And Music Victoria, in this particular project, is a key relationship to getting mainstream people involved who have not thought about, they've maybe thought about sexual safety, they've maybe thought about the, being careful with, alcohol safety, alcohol and drug safety, but they haven't sort of necessarily engaged with disability stuff until now, and they've come on like all guns blazing.
Identity, it comes back to identity, because it becomes a barrier for us to access the things that we want to. I think we're going to throw this across the panel. So any particular barrier, I mean, it might be obvious that art might not be so obvious to you guys, but maybe you could share a particular barrier that you've experienced to access to art form.
Can I start this off because I've got a story that happened to me. I sit in a meeting at work. Hope no one else is here. And we get, and it's the disability advisory committee. So it's a community-run committee, but we get council staff in, we get guest speakers in, we get people in, and it's about developing concepts. So we had a planner or an engineer come in who's new to work, and we were talking about auditing buildings because, I know there's problems with this building, I know that there's been improvements made and stuff over time, but I'm not sure how many assets council has, but they have heaps and heaps of buildings. So he came in and he was saying, oh yes, we'll audit them. I said, well actually all the buildings were audited in 2013. And he kept sort of like not looking at me and looking at other people, and then I would say it again and I'd say...
Well, what? So why wouldn't he look at you?
I think it's the eye contact thing, and I found out this later, which was made me laugh so much. I kept saying to him, no, they were audited in 2013, there should be reports filed, and there should be, we should know what the priorities are. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, they're here right now. Because he kept talking about money, we'll need money to do it. And so later on after the meeting, when we did the minutes and stuff, I rang him, and, he rang our disability planner, who wasn't me, to say who was the citizen who was blind in there who had all the documents. And he misinterpreted everything I'd said, like as a colleague. He could not believe I would be a colleague.
No.
He could not believe I would be a colleague. And so then I thought, well, fine, okay. So I rang him. Yeah, it would not be in his mind that there would be a level of expertise at the table. He thought I was a citizen, even though I had my name tag on. Speaking of not seeing, yeah. So that being taken seriously when you're trying to get up something like, or your identity that I am a worker or a performer or...
Yeah, I mean, the amount of times I've come across people go, oh, so what do you do? What was exactly there when I was sitting there? Oh, I'm a dancer. Oh, really? How can you dance? Well, move. How can you move there? Well, yeah, it depends. Sometimes you must be able to feel it, right? Yeah, but if you're moving, how are you going to feel it? Because you're moving. So, back to the thing, if you can move, you can dance, or you can't move, well, you can dance inside. Anyway, so it's again public perception on what other people perceive of art informs how we work. I ended up going off on a tangent a bit and diverting myself from my true artistic interest, which might actually be live experimental art. Love it. Anything that's new and interesting, I'm on board with it. I love it. But I ended up helping start up a contemporary dance theatre company, or dance company for deaf and hearing dancers. Now, I'm not that fussed about contemporary dance. At the end of the day, but it was good to do it because other people were interested in it. So, that's my example of how my artistic practice has changed to fit in with other people's perceptions of me and to build like that. So, again, coming back to everybody here, how has, I suppose, I didn't write it down, but I'm not going to bother. How much of what you do involves other people's desire to see what you do? Does that make sense, or is that a bit weird? Is that
yeah, it's a bit weird.
How much do you try and build the stereotype of people? So, for example, Emma, you might go, you're going to make a show about water stuff. Yeah. Because people see you as a walk, so that's what they expect to see.
I think when you're a minority group, there is a little bit of perception that you will create meaningful work, political work, and I try not to do that too much, although I do talk about my life, because I think my life's interesting. I'm a storyteller. I'd like to tell interesting stories, but there is a way to create something that means something. And inspiring! be inspired.
Well, who do we want to inspire? Ourselves or other people?
Hey?
Do we want to inspire ourselves or other people?
Well, it's also just because it's a word that's bandied around a lot for disabled people. So although inspiring is a very nice word and it means great things, we hear it so much.
Well, not just in it.
No, it's just that people say it to us for no reason,
What
like
did they say to a
getting
day-to-day
a cup of
basis?
coffee or, you know.
Well, yeah, I had it the other day at the airport. I was travelling and I requested meet and assist, and the person just said to me,
It's so inspiring.
"Did you travel yourself? It's great." And she just went,
Oh my gosh.
Just on mine, so it's one of the sound lovely headphones, and also for me to speak up. Yeah, right, that's true.
But can I just add one thing, sorry, and that is, we talk a lot about perceptions and stereotypes and biases and all of that, but I think we're the lucky ones here, like us sitting in these chairs, because we kind of managed to kind of step away from these low expectations. A lot of people there that are kind of having different abilities or coming from different minority groups have internalized these low expectations and actually live in them. So you don't think of yourself that you can do much or that you are capable or worthy of anything. So I think our work as I guess artists and anyone here in this room is really to open up space and these kind of conversations outside of these great spaces like Women's Circus. Just take it any way you can, because it's important that, you know, there is an 18-year-old person somewhere right now sitting at home and thinking their life is...
They can't do it.
Yeah, and I think it's really important, whether that is to study or be a part of art community or anything, really, just employment, all of that. So important.
Oh, that's nice. Well, you want to add something?
About Dance House. Yeah. We suggested that we might like to do some body mind centering classes with Alice Cummins, does this great work. I thought that might be a good next step for us to go and do some of those classes together. And what great, they're upstairs at Dance House. So the response was, sorry, you won't be able to do that, is what they said. And no one, we looked at each other and went, it just meant that we had to start going upstairs half an hour earlier. And the sort of little landings, we had a process as a bar, so we had a sort of a thing that I would come behind and help feed and support that way as Mel pulled herself up. Coming down was quicker, that took 20 minutes. And slide down the bottom.
There's a show in there.
Yeah.
Well, we filmed it actually, I'll put it on YouTube. People's reaction coming up past us is really interesting. Most people sort of don't know what to do. Like it's barrier.
They're embarrassed.
They're embarrassed, yes. Well, you know, people don't know what to do. They think, oh, should I help? Some people are over-accommodating and make it feel sort of a little bit pathetic, like inspiring. But people don't, you know, want to... I think it's about visibility. The more you see people, different bodies in dance classes, then it doesn't become such an issue. Or you understand that, you know, you just pop that wheel off and carry it up for us. Thanks. Easy.
It's about saying it's just different bodies, clearly. It's just different bodies. That's it. Can't do. Because I think in the bodies, I think everybody can do something better than mine to it. But do you think those barriers have informed the work that you make as an artist?
Looking at you now. to do more. I think
Just trying to excellence.
It does push you to work harder.
you can't just escape your body. I mean, you have to, and all artists draw on their own experience and what's happening in their lives. So
Visibility is really important. When my daughter was really young, I've always gone to art exhibitions of people with disability, and so there'd be lots of different bodies and work that was about disability, work that wasn't about disability. I mean, the first time we went, she freaked, and she'd come to me and she looked at different faces and she was a bit distressed, and she kept saying, when can we go, when can we go? And I said, well, at the end. And I didn't give in, and I didn't, and I sound like the mean mum, but I just thought, no, we're at an exhibition. I haven't finished my wine. I'm talking to people. She's here, and these people. And I just thought, I want her to live in a world where that visibility and difference of face and style and body and speech and the way people communicate through their hands, through their eyes, whatever, is really important. And as a nearly 15-year-old, I don't even think she notices disability, but we go to places all the time, and she's got little hearing aids as well. She's got a mild to moderate hearing loss. She's never been embarrassed to have her hair up. She's never said to me anything about being picked upon or bullied. She is really, it's great. I'm so proud of her, and I think she's so good at being part of the human race and not being judgy or scared and stuff. But that was a little bit scary for me as her mum, going, no, we're not leaving, with her holding on to me saying, when can we go? And of course, this particular exhibition, there was a lot of people with intellectual disability and Down syndrome, so there is a physical look for some people, and a very big source of over-affection. So, of course, I knew a lot of people. I was being hugged and stuff, and Lola was being caught in the hug. So, but she's fine, and, you know, it's just a little baby step.
Going back to the sentence, talk about bodies and how bodies and perception, but there's one obvious thing, also being a woman or gender. How much gender might inform your work? It's a bit of a blow up there kind of question, but for example, you can see a male dancer who's been assumed more capable of doing things than a woman might be. I'm wondering if that also impacts upon you in any way as well, in your place as society and as an artist?
Definitely. It's men are prevalent everywhere. And make more money, and there is a lot of deference to men, even in the disability sector, that they're more capable than disabled women. You can see it in employment, you can see it in the arts, you can see it everywhere.
Yeah.
So you need to have a strong sense of self to be a performer and an artist, and to do what everybody else does without finding that. I say. I don't know what you guys
About to go back into the acting world again, I've noticed that it is quite prevalent there. The male-female roles are quite different from what you get offered. And getting older too, the opportunities for older actresses get smaller and smaller and smaller. Anyway, but it is interesting getting older as a woman because, you know, things change and you are competing with younger women and the men out there. So yeah, it's like the opportunities do get smaller, which is a shame. Yeah. But I'll fight it. I'll keep fighting the fight.
Yeah, the fight's harder. The fight's a bit, I mean, we're not here to talk about and go, oh, we've got a disability, oh, well, a woman, blah, blah, blah. I think it's just to open up the discussion really about what thoughts and perceptions there are. This is a point, we're coming to a point now where we're going to invite questions from the audience here. If you have anything you'd like to ask any of the panel members, panel members. Yeah, thank you. So generally about, I suppose, Do you feel you have achieved what it is that you want to do? Or do you feel that you're constantly battling, fighting to get somewhere because of the barriers of gender, because of the barriers of disability? If you took those two out, you think you'd be where you are, where you want to be? Bit of a loaded question. I know.
I'm kind of where I'm where I want to be.
You want to, okay, good.
I'd like a bit more money.
Yeah.
But I really love the work I do, and I love working in the arts, and I love radio, and getting to talk to people every week. It's great, and playing music and stuff. Yeah, I'm lucky.
You spoke to me about the consistency and the importance of consistency in your radio practice.
So the consistency is its inconsistencies. Every week I interview someone and they talk about their art, their practice, their job, their life, you know, and I don't necessarily like all my guests and I don't necessarily agree with all of their opinions, but the consistency of having a show of disability every week that is there. Like there's other shows and there's people doing stuff, but there's an opportunity to showcase what's out there. And nowadays people approach me to come on, or they've come in with a press release because they've got something to advertise, and I think that is great that we can talk about that every week. And it's not, you know, there's people in this room that do amazing stuff in disability already, like Jax does spoken word, she does clipping, she does talks, all that sort of stuff, which is terrific. But the consistency is that someone is in that studio talking about something to do with disability. Like Devon came in to talk about the placement of Emma in this scholarship and grant, and that's great. So now more people know about that and know the extent of it. So yeah, I just think we need to see it's that visibility thing all the time.
As I'm talking about that, it just reminds me there is actually inconsistency in equality in the art. For example, if you give two applications, funding applications, exactly the same outcome, development, everything. How we're looking at possibly success, and that will inform the funding decision. I think there was a study actually that they did it as a test and see what happened. The white male actually got the application. Which I think says quite a lot, unfortunately. But what are your thoughts on that?
I'm not a white male, I guess, isn't it? I definitely didn't have much success with grant applications until there were specific disability arts. And then I was like,
so if you didn't put your disability or the fact that you have short stature, do you think you would be as successful in the funding application?
not in normal ones, no.
No.
Maybe now because I'm 20 years behind me, but maybe not, I don't know, yeah.
That's another highlight on
and also, if I did a grant application where I said I wanted to do a Shakespeare, they wouldn't give it to me.
Yeah. What again?
Like a classic play, a Shakespeare, or I wouldn't get money for that.
No, it depends on who you apply to,
But yeah, there's that weighing of, I don't want to say you write what you need to on a grant application, but you create work that might get over the line. It's hard to say. Yeah, you kind of shape your application to what you think might get money.
Yeah. So you use what you have, right? So would you say that you use your position to further your artistic career?
Yeah. May as well. I mean, yeah, because I've been doing it for so long, I've got a lot of experience as well. But I'll definitely use the card when I can use the card. Yeah.
It's like I play the gift card all the time.
You got to use it when you can.
Yeah, right.
I think there should be.
I
think there should be some audience development side as well, where audiences feel capable of being able to ask for more interesting TV, film, performance and stuff, and we're not as glib about what we'll accept as just being a whole lot of,
reality frame.
Just we need to ask for other things, and people are moving away from mainstream stuff in droves, because you can watch Switched at Birth, which has its criticisms, but it's predominantly deaf show. That's with American Sign Language and very little verbal stuff in it. There's other people turning away to other shows just because they're really well made, they're really great, and why would you watch Neighbours? No offence, anyone. Anyone?
Alright, well, we're getting to sort of time here where we have a couple of options where we can if anyone's got any questions or comments even. We also have the option of doing a record.
Sure, yeah.
Right. So another thing is we've got about half an hour before we sort of amble around. And you can you have cups of tea?
Yes.
Cups, no wine, no booze? Okay, no wine, no booze. For some reason.
Coffee martinis.
Somewhere. Where do you have to include it?
They're little bottles, they don't.
Not good. Okay. Invite you, because for us, have a water in the same room. There's a blackboard up there, there's some chalk lying around somewhere.
Okay.
Take a moment to draw or write any thoughts and light bulb moments you might have had today, whether it's informed to practice a little bit more, or any questions that for some reason you don't want to ask us right now, that's alright, we'll put them up there.
You're scared.
We're not going to tell you, it's fine. But it's just the idea to create a visual sort of response to what's happened in the room today.
Don't feel like you can leave your shoes on. We're cleaning the space tomorrow, so.
Have you got any comments on your live video on Facebook?
I don't know, I haven't checked, I've been listening. I think we failed miserably, but I'll look at it later.
Alright, that's good, that's okay. Yeah, we failed. Alright, does anyone have any questions they'd like to throw over to us? Any burning questions? Oh yeah, we've got one here, yeah. Hi.
It's not really a question, but with the visually impaired, I've been using, there's an app called Be My Eyes. It's so good, and it's like where blind people or people visually impaired can use it, and they can live video chat to like another person who's seen. And so like, the first one I ever got the call was there was a woman waiting for her Uber, but she didn't know when it was going to be coming up. So she knew that it was going to be a grey minivan. So I had to tell her when it was going up and like to reach out and open the door and stuff. And then yesterday I just got one, and it was a woman who needed to see if her outfit matched. So she wanted to like know what colour her top was, what colour her shorts were. So like what you were saying about what about people like turning up and not being able to read the blackboard and stuff. I think that would be a good thing to suggest to people. Like they could just, it gives people with visually impaired a lot more independence because they don't have to have somebody there physically. They can just like do the live video chat to anybody in the world. So you wouldn't get a call at midnight because it goes to the different time zones. So all the calls I've had have been people in America. And it's been like midday my time and kind of their kind of evening. So it would be a good thing to suggest to people like when for more sort of independence in real life situations, like going to a theatre or going to the industry or something. Like it's a good one. And there's a little torch on it. So, for example, the girl that I was telling her what colour her clothes were, it was dark in the room, but there was a little. It knew that it was dark somehow, so I could turn on her torch on her phone through the app, so I could be able to see better. So yeah, it was really good. So we got things to.
So in Vision Australia, I actually have just been given that project to work. That's a Danish company called Be My Eyes.
Yeah.
And we're just working on with them. That's one of the projects that's just been given to me to develop an app version for Australia. So that's coming through, and definitely all of our Vision Australia clients that are blind or have low vision will be across that. Yeah. So we we are working on it. It's a fantastic map.
Yeah, it's really.
Okay. Oh, yeah, do that. Let's do that. Let's do that. Oh, Devin?
So I'm just going to quickly do the wrap-up bit. But so we've also managed to secure a tiny bit of funding. This is all seeding a longer-term vision for us here at Women's Circus, where we're working towards the creation of an integrated, inclusive circus ensemble next year. And this is sort of, I don't know if any of you work in community-engaged arts practice, but there's been a lot of, I feel like there's been integrity in this journey for us so far, partly because we've been continuing to have conversations, and the conversations have been driving the program development. So yeah, I think the idea is that as part of the mentorship for Vildana, and she had identified, we had worked with Mia last year, who's here as well, around a mentorship where they sort of self-identified where they wanted to get to, and in Mia's case, she wanted to work with deaf kids in particular, I think. Doing circus with them. So we worked with her across a year so that then she was able to go and deliver workshops to kids who are deaf and hard of hearing. Vildana has self-identified as wanting to work on her artistry and herself as an artist. So we're working on that. And part of that means she needs to have performance outcomes. So, but acknowledging that she also wants collaborative opportunities. And so we're slowly building towards a 2018 performance ensemble. So keep an eye out for that kind of stuff. And we'd love to hear, we're trying to work with, there's sort of research involved as well. So if there's any particular groups or programs you think could benefit from circus workshops, we want to really particularly talk to women who have physical disabilities and then offer them opportunities to do circus with us for free. And that's sort of where the funding can support that at the moment. So yeah, I wanted to say thank you. I agree, I struggle a lot with the kind of commodification of people's stories in order to drive the organisation's outcomes. And I feel like having days like today appeases some of those tensions that I have, because I feel like it's great to just continue to have places for advocacy, empowerment for both yourselves as well as hopefully people here feel more empowered to become as advocates. So thanks very much for all of you for coming along today. Thank you.
Stuff. We've also got some flyers on fan page. Does anyone think person come and volunteer? Danielle, I've got them back there. Did they know? Is it free? We did? Yeah. We did. Thanks everyone. Emma, would you like to talk about feedback?
Well, if anyone wants to talk or give me feedback about the show, feel free to have a chat to me.
Thanks very much. Thanks to our competence. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
sure someone had some name.
Oh, good. It's not completely useless.
And that other thing I had to stick stuff on my chair. Sharing, yeah. I don't mind. Big blue eyes. Looking pretty happy most of the time. Here, is it stuff happening? Yeah. You get into that stuff happening. Get out in the world.
Peugeot station wagon. Anyone in this room? Peugeot station wagon?
Did you get your other?
I will see. I just have a
okay. Oh, what's there in there? What's going on? Cheese?
Yeah, there's tea and there's melon as well.
Okay. There I go.
And I love having velvet too. You're there, she's more likely to be too.
Oh, look, she was upset, but she said it was just everything.
Yeah, I've just seen other people, they've ended like that. Just too much. Yeah. I'll tell them.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. But you know, like, I mean, choices, like, I can't believe it. You know, like, you have to sometimes choose, you have to think. Maybe.
Well, I know that yesterday the baby sort of got sick and I was talking about it for saying it was sort of depending on who's she was but she just wanted to say I mean, she got to know the baby for
Oh, good.
yeah. I mean, so no,
I can people listen and follow along, and this talk is running.
That's one thing, and I can not forgot, but I can't demonstrate practice. But I think that's nice anyway. I would agree with that. It's very hard to hear. Very hard to hear. I believe signing. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I think she gets a little bit. I know it's very hard, isn't it? But go on. Then other people are saying that they can't do well, it's good.
Yeah,
We don't do
some people that are
in the order anymore, dusted to stick to my nose and it's really stretch my eyebrows up. Something, yes. I think I've got to take my elbow and cut the story. Sorry, I just want to scratch my nose off. There we are. I'm working with challenges.
Yeah.
Do you use any work or just free?
Someone did too, blaming on me.
Is it still going?
Do you want the healthy thingy, that wooden horse?
Yeah.
I've only met him briefly twice, mentioned it to them, and I don't know if there's any reason for that right now.
I don't want to go.